Hello there. This is December the 20th, 2022, and I have a question from Mandy in Gilroy, California. Mandy asks, someone asked me to submit an anonymous question. Please direct us to the video where we can find information to study, or perhaps you can answer via your live videos. Basically, this person thinks that God has already chosen those that will be saved. He says that no matter what a person does or wants, God already predestined those that are chosen to be saved or not. That God wrote a story and it's just unfolding. For example, he says that Pharaoh's heart was hardened by God to play that part. All right, now I don't have anything specific that I've recorded just for this subject, just to say that this subject is wrong. I don't know if I'll do that. I might in the future, but at the moment I don't feel very inspired because I don't think it's going to be that helpful. I can say that this is wrong, and someone else will say, well, Aaron's wrong. Where do you go with that? There's nowhere to go with that. I have found that when I have had discussions with people about this subject, there will be a list of verses that they refer to, something like this one, like Pharaoh's heart was hardened. And let's say there's 10 of them, right? By the time I get to the 9th one, they have forgotten or they don't care about what I said from point 1 to 9. By the time I get there, they just don't even care. They're thinking, well, I still got number 10, and then if I say something that corrects number 10, well, then they just go back to number 1. That's what happens. And it ends up in a circular discussion where I end up saying, but I already addressed that. And it goes nowhere because for the most part, this is what happens. People believe what they want to believe, And this person, who's asking you to ask me this question, they believe this because they want to, And I can argue the scriptures for days, for years. I can argue the individual scriptures. But chances are, this person, like just about everyone else who I've encountered who takes this position, they believe it because they want to. And it doesn't matter what the scriptures say or what they mean. It does not matter because there are other things that are more important to them than the truth. That it really isn't about the truth. It really isn't about whether this is true or not. They want this to be true because there are other reasons why. For example, they may be very concerned about someone in their life who passed away, who passed away and they rejected God. But they want to believe that maybe this person was one of those special chosen people of God anyway. I'm just giving you an example. This is something that I've run into, that they want to believe this because they want a way out for the people who they were close to who rejected the gospel. They want a way out for that. Another common reason, I'm not saying that this is this person's reason, but another common reason is that a person does not want to be personally responsible for their own beliefs. They just don't. They want to be one of the chosen by God regardless of what they do or what they want or what they know, because it relieves them of any sense of responsibility. It sets them free from any need to even find out who God is at all. It doesn't matter because God's already made He's already made the decisions. So I don't need to spend the effort and the time in my life to discover who He is. I don't need to do that. Why even read the Bible? I don't need to do that. This sets this person free to be able to do other things that they rather do anyway. And so it becomes an excuse. It has nothing to do with whether it's true or not. It has nothing to do with Pharaoh at all. It has to do with them looking for an excuse so that they don't have to let, faith be a topic in their lives at all. They can just go ahead and do whatever they want to do because it doesn't matter, And so that tends to be what people are really concerned about. And so it's not going to matter if I produce something formal on all the individual scriptural passages and trace the entire history of this philosophical belief all the way back to the Greeks, which I mention on occasion anyway. But it doesn't really matter in the end because people believe these things for reasons other than the truth of the scriptures. Okay? And, I understand that there's a lot of churches that have this as their doctrine. But, they attract a lot of people because there are a lot of people who want this kind of doctrine, who want this kind of a teaching. And they don't even really care about the teaching. They don't care about the Bible. They don't care about God. They just don't. They have a place where they can assemble together with other people so they can have more business contacts, so they can have activities for their kids to have something to do. And if they're not married, they can look for a spouse, or if they're unemployed, they can connect with people and get a job, because they're a good person who goes to church. That's what these things are about. It has nothing to do with the truth for people like this, for the most part. All right? Having said that, I will go ahead and address the issue of Pharaoh. Okay, I will do that. Pharaoh had a choice. He could have let the people go. He could have done that. But he decided not to. All right? He decided not to. His heart was hardened because he didn't want to do what God told him to do. All right? That was it. And it's about pride. It's the natural rebellion of humanity. You go, there are some people who are just like this. You go to them and you say, don't be doing that. And they say, oh, well, now don't be telling me what not to do. I'm going to do it just because. Just to show you that you're not in control of me, that you're not in command of me, that you're not God. I'm an independent, free person. I'm going to do this no matter how evil it is. I'm going to do this just to show you, just to show you that you can't be telling me what to do. Well, go ahead, good for you, all right? But it's still wrong and it's still evil. And that's the kind of attitude that Pharaoh had. He was the Pharaoh. He was the guy in charge. There was no one in his life who would tell him what to do. He made the decisions. He was the one who was the God of the land. And then some Moses shows up with Aaron and says, let your slaves go. Just by suggesting it would harden his heart because of his pride, because of who he thought he was. Look, I've had a lot of conflicts with people who think that they are more than they really are. And when I let them know that they're not, well, they still try. They still try to be somebody that they're not. And they sin and they cause enormous destruction in people's lives, trying desperately to go against my exposing the truth, because they don't want the truth to be exposed. How dare I expose such truth? I encounter that a lot, and I've endured a lot of suffering from that myself. Okay, and so God caused his heart to be hardened because he said something, because he told him what to do. That's what hardened his heart. It had nothing to do with Pharaoh. We can't let these people go. No, we can't do that, because if that happens, well then, that's just going to be against my plan. He didn't need that. Look, if Pharaoh would have let the people go, that would have been good enough. The reason why God spoke to Pharaoh in this way was because God was going to make this a public event. All right? The whole world is going to know that there is a God, whether Pharaoh cooperates or he doesn't. If Pharaoh would have let the people go, it would have been a public proclamation to the entire world that the God of Israel is the true God. Is he going to do that? Imagine all the consequences that Pharaoh would have had to endure if he would have said that the Israelite God was the true God. What are all the consequences he's going to have to experience? there would have been a lot. There would have been a lot of changes in Egypt over that one. You think he's going to do that? No, he's going to harden. His heart's going to be hardened over all the consequences that he's going to have to endure. But if he would have let the people go, it would have been a public proclamation that the God of Israel is the true God. He decided not to let the people go. Fine. God beat him to death, all right, until he went ahead and said, okay, fine, I'll let the people go. All right. And then it became a public proclamation that the God of Israel was the true and living God. That's what Pharaoh eventually declared. All right. And if there's any question about it, take a look at the plagues. If anybody wants to question that, they can look at all the plagues and see that the plagues were against the gods of Egypt. That those gods they believed in certainly did not protect them from the plagues that came upon them. All right? So that's what it was about with Pharaoh. But see, even if I give you an explanation like that, even with an explanation for this verse, from my experience, when I tell this to people, they don't care. What I have just said is totally irrelevant. It has no meaning whatsoever. Because the reason why they believe this nonsense is because there are other things that they don't want to say about why they really want to believe this. It isn't an argument of the truth or not. It's an argument over people believe this because it's really important to them because they have other things that they don't want to admit to, that they want to hang on to or they want to hold on to or that they want to believe that affects their lives. And that's really what the argument is about, okay? So I'm hoping that this helps. If you'd like to ask me about the individual verses, I can do individual recordings on the individual verses just to comment on those in this context. I can do that. So do send them to me to aaron@aaronbudgeon.net, and I'll go ahead and address them as I am able. Thank you.